Okay, the first principle that we want to cover is a warm-up. It's very important before you exercise that you warm up the body, you get the blood pumping, and that the muscles are warm. That's one of the most important things you can do to prevent minor injury and even major injury. If the muscles are tight when you're starting to work out, you're more likely to injure yourself. The dynamic warm-up is a warm-up that is in movement, is more cardiovascular in nature. And can include things like running, burpees, it can include some strength training, but it's just important to get the body warmed up before you begin exercising. There's lots of different ways to do a dynamic exercise warm-up, and you can do the one that we do in class, or you can look on the internet. There's a wide variety and lots available on the internet if you want to learn more about dynamic warm-ups. But we'll be doing that every single day. Last time we did balance, and today we're going to take those a step further into some gymnastic skills. Okay, so movement is a big part of gymnastics, and we've got to use our body to move. So the first thing I want you to try is you're going to roll on your back this way, and then come up. The way you make yourself come back up is you use these arms rolling forward. So here, you push them forward, and that allows us to sit back up, right? So we already learned a candlestick. So we're going to do a candlestick using our arms to help us stand back up. So go up into the candlestick, feet up. As I swing down, bring my arms up here so I can stand up. Again, so you're here, back, and forward. Those arms swinging forward is what's going to allow you to go up. So now we know what we need to know to do a forward roll, because we've done a headstand, and now we start with the headstand here, knees together, hands down. Instead of putting my head on the floor, I push my head, tuck my chin all the way down to my chest, and I'm going to land on my head or my shoulders by pushing off of the toes and going into that headstand position. I'm going to roll over. It's the power and the push off of the toes that's going to create the momentum. Make sure you're tucking that chin, and then I'll roll up just like I did out of that candlestick. So, forward roll looks like this. And you return to your standing position. When we do a forward roll, we should start in our starting position, standing position, legs together. Bend over, make sure it fits the camera. Bend over, push, roll, and stand up. Okay? Good. The next basic skill we want to do is a backward roll. Backward roll is the same thing in reverse, but because of the shape of the dynamics of our body, it's a little bit more challenging. So you start in your starting position. You're going to squat down. Hands are going to go point towards your shoulder blades back here. You're going to use those hands to push up. The temptation is to use our neck to push back as we go over. You really want to focus on keeping that chin tight to the chest, because you don't want to use your neck to push over. You're going to wind up with a sore neck or even injure your neck if you're using your head to push yourself up and over. You're going to use the hands to push up back to a standing position. So it'll look like this. Squat down, push back, roll over, and push up to a standing position. Okay? If you're struggling with the backward roll, odds are it's the push. You're not getting enough momentum. When you sit back, you got to really push backwards off the heels, but you're going to be pushing back onto the seat here. See how I push? Because if you don't have enough momentum, it's really hard. It's harder to get up over the head on that backward roll. So that's why we have wedge mats. We've got a couple of these in the gym. One's a little bigger than this. But this will help, as you're practicing, get the feel for how to do it and how to use that momentum. So you stand here. You're going to do the same thing. You sit back on this, roll, and do the backward roll. That'll help you as you're learning and training the backward roll. This is a springboard. In this class, men typically have 7 or 8. Women usually have 6 springs. Proper way to jump on a springboard is to land forward on the springboard 3 or 4 inches from the end. You want to be on the balls of the feet, legs straight but not locked. You don't, again, locking your legs, jumping is going to hurt your knees. So you can jump this way, just like you would on floor if you were just going to rebound one of these. Okay, that kind of jump. When we run, we're going to be running at the springboard. You're going to take off one foot. I jump off my non-dominant foot, leading with my dominant foot, so that I can land on the board here. Make sure you're, if you land on the edges of the board, it throws you sideways. If you land in the back of the board, you don't get really any spring bounce. So you want to make sure you're hitting it right. Don't over jump the board, because you'll slide off the end and you can roll your ankle doing that. Okay, so you want to be careful. You're going to run at the board, and the further you are from the board on your jump, as you increase your speed, the more power you will actually get out of the board. So if I'm jumping from here, I'm not going to get as much power as if I'm jumping 3 or 4 feet away with a full run. Okay, so your first challenge is just to learn to jump on and off the board without having to think about it too much. So the things you're doing off the springboard initially onto an 8-inch mat are acro jumps. So you're going to run, jump, acro jump, and stick your landings. Obviously you couldn't see that. The last thing you'll need to focus on is the arm swing. On our acro jumps, we use those arms swinging upward to help give lift. You want to do the same thing on the springboard. There are 2 ways you can do that. On the jump off of your leading foot, you can put your hands back so that when you jump, they're back here, and then you can swing them upwards. The way gymnasts do it, trained gymnasts, is they actually, as they're jumping here, they actually circle the arms around so that when they hit here, the arms are already there and they'll swing up to give more lift to the skill. In class, we started another component of gymnastics, which is strength. We started some strength training. If you haven't done gymnastics before, you may not realize that everything we're going to do in gymnastics is going to be strength training, so hopefully you're planning on a strength training course this semester by taking gymnastics. So if you don't have the strength to do the skills, you're not going to be able to do the skills. So it's important that we develop those. And odds are good, even if you're in really good shape, there are probably muscle groups that you are still going to need to strengthen to be able to do gymnastics. Gymnasts will make the skills look, an experienced gymnast will make the skills look extremely easy. That's part of the allure of gymnastics. But you'll find pretty quickly that the combination of motion, your body weight, gravity, moving from balanced position from hands to feet is much more complicated than it appears. So anyway, so strength is another important component of gymnastics. The last thing we did in class and that we need to consider is flexibility. When you're doing gymnastics, there are some skills that are physically not possible to do without the appropriate flexibility. And so increasing your flexibility not only makes it possible to do some skills, but it also is going to decrease your risk for injury. The more flexible you are, the less likely you are to suffer from minor injuries. So at the end of each class, we will be doing a static stretch. A static stretch is what that word means. Static means you're holding it still. So when you do a static stretch and want to increase your flexibility, first thing to keep in mind is the muscles need to be warm. You never want to jump off the couch after an hour of watching TV or wake up in the morning and just jump into, say, your splits. It's a good way to tear muscles. Your muscles need to be warm, so you need to do something, some activity, physical activity beforehand, some kind of workout before you stretch and do a static stretch. But the key to doing a static stretch is you get into the position you want to stretch, stretching the muscles you're trying to increase your flexibility, and you hold that for 30 seconds, a minute, up to 3 minutes at a time. And it should be very uncomfortable. You shouldn't experience sharp pain because that would indicate you're actually straining something. But uncomfortable, should be breathing consciously, deep breathing, and also trying to relax the muscle that you're trying to stretch. If you're going to do it for a long time, like 3 minutes, you might want to do it for 30 seconds or a minute. Get out of the position, shake your legs, loosen them up again, get back into that position again. And if you really want to increase your flexibility this semester, you need to be doing it every day. We're only going to stretch for 5 minutes, so we're obviously not going to hit all the muscles in 5 minutes. We're only going to do it a couple of muscles a day, twice a week is not enough to really increase your flexibility much. So if you want to increase your flexibility, it needs to be done religiously every day to increase your flexibility. So those are the things we covered in class, and the important principles: balance, movement, strength, flexibility. That's what's really going to come into play during this gymnastics class this semester.